Hello there, and welcome back to the Classical Mind Core Concepts podcast. My name is Colin Pierce, and today we're going to examine a bit more closely the core concept of definition. Session number 3, Definition. Definition. How complicated can this be? Well, leave it to philosophy to take what seems like a very simple notion and turn it into a twisted, complex, and detailed discussion that goes on and on and on. Philosophers have been examining the concept of definition for more than 2,000 years, and they show no sign of stopping anytime soon. So let's start at the beginning and take a look at why definition is so important to philosophic discussion. In a previous podcast lecture, you learned about the distinction between opinion and knowledge. Opinion is unfounded or unsecured knowledge. That is, it might be correct, but it might not be correct. Take this example. I've never been to Tucumcari. It's a town in New Mexico. But in my opinion, the way to get there is to head west on Route 81 and then take Route 40. Now, once I've been to Tucumcari, I now know the way to get there. What was once just my opinion of how to get there is now knowledge of the correct way to go. My original opinion may have been correct, but it only becomes knowledge once the account of the way has been secured or grounded. True knowledge is a secured understanding of some given object, like the way to Tucumcari in our example. Definition can be understood in much the same way. Once we identify something and provide it with a name, we must then define it, or set down exactly what it is, so that we, and others around us, can understand what the name refers to, and what the object is in essence. Now let's take a closer look at this. We can see that a definition is attached to the object on the one hand through the name, and the essence of what the object is on the other. This is important for several reasons. To begin with, our perceptions of objects, like our opinions of things in general, are not always settled, well-founded, or clear. On a practical level, when we are not able to refine our perception of an object to the point of real understanding, we do not know the object, and as a result, we can't effectively communicate about the object. On a philosophic level, refining our perceptions allows us to identify the essence of an object, and thus to have a settled and well-founded account that brings the object to clarity. The ancient philosophers, Plato in particular, believed that the soul seeks to know not the quality, but the essence of an object. In the seventh letter, Plato explained, "Only when all of these things, names, definitions, and visual and other perceptions, have been rubbed against one another and tested, pupil and teacher asking and answering questions in good will and without envy, only then, when reason and knowledge are at the extremity of human effort, can they illuminate the nature or essence of an object." So, definitions are philosophically important because they help us to identify the essence of an object, and in such a way that we can have true knowledge of it. As you read through the classical texts in your Philosophy 201 course, you may notice that the process of refining a definition is often a long and difficult affair. After all, the Republic explores the nature of justice, and that discussion lasted through the night, only to be retold in its entirety the next day. Many of the arguments in the classical texts begin from the most basic understanding of an object. You might call this a nominal definition, or a definition that only pertains to the way in which a name or term is understood. But, as you will see, classical arguments proceed through successive stages toward a more fundamental understanding of a given object, or toward a real definition. The real definition is the one that leaves aside all the trivial perceptions and objections, and attempts to successfully identify the essence of the object. Thus, many classical arguments move from opinion to knowledge by refining definitions from nominal to real. Some classical thinkers arrive at a real definition of a given object through the process of classification, or by breaking an object down along the lines of kinds and types, or genus and species. Considering a particular object, it may be possible to establish that it is part of a certain class of objects. By refining a specific term through the process of classification, we are able to establish the broader class to which the object belongs, and then the specific difference, or that feature which distinguishes the object from other members of the genus. The classical illustration of genus and species is in the definition of man as rational animal, where animal is the genus to which man belongs, and rational is the feature which distinguishes man from all other animals. By moving from the more general to the more specific with respect to a given object, this process can help clarify exactly what that object is, and thus move you closer to the real definition or essence of the object. There are many ways you can experiment with this process on your own to get an idea of what it is to refine a definition. Imagine a chair, for example. The chair in your imagination is probably different from the one in mine. Yet, we can both identify something common among all chairs such that we understand what we are talking about when we say chair. Despite all the variations that we can imagine from one chair to the next, at the core of each is a common essence. When we say something is a chair, we are referring to the fact that the object shares in or corresponds with the common essence that makes the object what it is. With respect to the chair, we mean an object for sitting on, made for one person, having legs and back. Here we have something like the essence of chair by way of the definition. For those of you who are feeling a bit adventurous, we can test whether we have correctly identified the essence of a thing through our definition. Imagine a chair again, any chair at all. Now what can you add or subtract from this chair and still be able to call it a chair? Add a color, still a chair. Add a few more legs, still a chair. Add seating for two. Oops, we have a bench, a love seat, a couch, etc. What about with subtraction? Subtract a leg. Three-legged, but still a chair. Subtract the backrest. Oops, we have a stool, a footrest, an ottoman, etc. Sometimes all this addition and subtraction can help us to identify the common essence that connects all objects in a given class or definition. If you're really feeling adventurous, try this exercise with someone you know. What can you add or subtract from your friend Tom and still be left with the essence of Tom? Now let's sum up. On the most basic level, a definition identifies exactly what an object is at its core, or its essence. Sometimes this is accomplished by moving from nominal definitions to real definitions. Other times, this is accomplished through the process of classification, isolating the object's essence by giving its genus and specific difference. Not only do definitions make it possible to effectively communicate, but they also facilitate true knowledge of a given object by helping to settle or fundamentally ground our perceptions and opinions. There are all sorts of definitions out there in the philosophic discussion: real, nominal, explicative, ostensive, stipulative, descriptive, and more. But all of these concepts of definition begin with the classical notions that we have just covered. Now that you have the foundation down pat, you'll be ready for whatever you choose next. That's all we have time for in this session. Thanks for listening, and please join us again for the next Classical Mind Core Concepts podcast.